So I just want to thank everybody again for coming to the workshop today. This presentation is brought to you by Marie. She is our professional development officer. Unfortunately, she could not make the meeting, so I'll be presenting on her behalf. So we're going to be talking about case studies and case competitions. And this is just a brief introduction. We're not going to go too in depth, but we'll be going about the breakdown, how these case competitions usually happen, how to be successful, and then I'll be talking about my own experience at the end. Yeah, it's just our agenda. We'll talk about case studies, case competitions, tips for success, the CAS toolkit that we have access to, and then I'll talk about my experience. So this is just the general definition. What is a case study? So usually it's a situation you're given, usually in a team group environment or in an individual like interview, and you'll be asked to solve a certain problem or use certain actuarial methods to come to an outcome. And from there, you'll present your findings. So case studies, evidence-based study about an open-ended problem. And some of you may know case studies are part of actuarial exams, and they're part of actuarial courses that we have to take usually towards the later end. As we see here, it's currently used extensively in course 7. So eventually you will have to solve some case studies, take part in them. So it's really good to, prepare now while you're in college and just get a feel for them. One thing that some students may think is that, there's one set answer, but a lot of times it's how you arrive at that answer, what methods you use, and most importantly, how you present your evidence. In the case competitions through UC, I know through UCLA, you have the chance to present first to the board at the UCLA Actuarial Association or their organization. And later on in the finals, you get to present to a board of about 15 to 20 insurance and, insurance adjusters and actuaries. So, you're going to be given a problem and you need to understand what the problem is. One really important thing is understanding why you're doing this. If you're given, a lot of times you'll be given a type of problem that's ahead of what you've learned. So it's always great to understand why you're doing this. So when you later on take it in a course or you're tasked with doing a similar type of problem in work, you know what's actually happening and what the outcome should be. So for presentations, I know for UCLA, it's 10 minutes. Usually it will be 10 minutes and you're in a group of 4 people. And afterwards, you will have to do a Q&A. And when you create this presentation, you really want to present your data in a good manner. You want to show your final results, and you need to know the breakdown of everything. In these presentations, they will ask you after, about certain numbers, how you arrived at that, why you use certain methods, and like, was it a team thing or did you decide on it individually? They'll ask you very in-depth questions, so you want to know about all of your numbers and how you arrive there. Like I mentioned, you want to draw attention to these key numbers. Numbers are the biggest thing, and rather than writing a lot of text, you really want to be able to explain that and just have the numbers on the slide or just have tables, graphs, things like that. And it just takes practice. So we offer support through case study seminars. This is the first one. This is just an introduction. Janet Duncan will be hosting 2 seminars in November, and she's a well-seasoned actuary. So if you are interested in preparing now for case competitions or for case studies that you may see in interviews, it is always great to attend these. We will be providing case study materials, and we're currently in the process of, we're trying to get bests, aggregates, and averages. It's a handbook. We're currently applying for that, and if we get it, we'll be able to share it with Actuarial Association members. So the most popular case competitions are obviously, well, the only ones, UCLA and UC Berkeley. So many of you have seen my email. UC Berkeley is hosting theirs, and it starts next Wednesday. UCLA's is in the middle of January, I'd say, next year. And they also have one during spring break, during our spring break. They're the only UC campus that doesn't use the quarter system. They use regular semesters. So the case competition is at about, it's about midway through their semester. So we don't always have the most students take part in it, but it's always good to get more practice. I know it's during spring break and it's hard. Some of you may have okay, I see your question. So yeah, there's 3 each academic year. So yeah, Berkeley in fall, UCLA in winter, and Berkeley again during our spring break between winter and spring. Yeah, even if you're not the most confident, they're always good to prepare. It's always good to practice and see what type of questions you'll get. Practice makes perfect. And I'll talk a little bit about myself right now. When I did mine, I had no idea what was going on. It was about PSTAT 183 reserving, and because I did it, I now am prepared for PSTAT 183. I know some of the concepts. Yeah, it's all about practice. And later on in the spring quarter, winter or spring, we're still working on it. I think winter now we're going to do it. We want to have our own UCSB case competition. This is going to be for UCSB students only. Now we have a CAS toolkit, and we're talking with professors to develop our own case competition. Hopefully we'll have a good amount of teams, and there will be a winner. But most importantly, this is kind of like friendly practice between our own students, and hopefully down the line we will be able to turn this into an event that other UC campuses can take part in. So these are just some tips for preparing your team. It's all about getting to know each other, building rapport. This can be for interests or hobbies, what some of your strengths are in the actuarial field. And you only have a week to do these case competitions. There's not much time. Sometimes I believe you get up to 12 days for Berkeley. So it's really important that you get started right away. Schedule regular weekly or daily meetings, and communicate with each other. It is difficult since most of us are full-time students, and doing these case competitions means you have to set time aside, usually every day, to meet with your team. But this is just a part of getting that extra practice. You're being proactive by doing this, so you will need to sacrifice some of your study time. So the association helps, as I mentioned before, some of the, we have a toolkit, and we can help with mock studies, also the seminars, but we have our Discord server, and you can make your own team there, and you can request a channel for your team so you can meet within the AA Discord. And to do this, you would have to contact Lucky. He's the administrator of Discord, so he'll gladly be able to help you out with that. And yeah, we can provide roles for you. So yeah, Discord is a great tool that you can use to work with other students. So these are just some of the basic rules. As much as we'd like to work with, like our close friends in the association, the teams are picked at random. So it's better that you meet with students that are interested in case studies. You are active in the Discord, so you can meet people, so that when you have, if you're put on their team, you already know them, and there's already some sort of relationship that you can build off. A lot of these case competitions, so what happens is you pair upperclassmen with lowerclassmen. It's unfair to put a team of, all seniors together, compared to having, maybe some sophomores and freshmen. Obviously, the seniors have more experience and are more likely to have seen the material. So we pair, two upperclassmen to lowerclassmen so that the upperclassmen can kind of serve as mentors and help you out with the material, and help guide you through the case competition. Some important things for case competitions are, you need to be good at research. I'm sure most of you are good at research since you're here at university. Have a good understanding of Excel, pivot tables, VLOOKUPs, matches, things like that. Just being able to clean data up, check for errors. A lot of times you'll have to write the report afterwards. I know for UCLA it was up to 3 to 4 pages. For Berkeley, I believe it was 10 pages. Anybody can correct me if I'm wrong. I've heard it was 10 pages last year. So you need to be able to communicate your findings. Then yeah, you're gonna want to have somebody be able to make the PowerPoint. You can have great data and a great report, but if you're not able to present it so that's visually appealing on a PowerPoint, that's a big, you're gonna be docked a lot of points. And then yeah, having taken actuarial courses is a big help. And I see in the chat there's a question. So in the chat, we asked, would you recommend people who haven't taken any upper division PSTAT course to still attend? Definitely. Like I said before, when I took part in the UCLA competition in January, I had no idea what PSTAT 183 was. I knew what reserving was, but I did not know any of the methods, how to do it. I got some practice in that, and I understand the concepts better now. So when I take 183, so when I come to this upper division course, I'm already familiar with the material. It's a great way to learn ahead of time. And yeah, it's just a great experience so that once you've taken this course, and let's say you get a case competition related to the, reserving again, you're more experienced. You know what type of question they're going to ask you. You know what needs to be done. Just practice, practice, practice. And it's okay if you can't do everything. It's okay if your team, the reason we have 2 upperclassmen and 2 lowerclassmen is because we know that these freshmen and sophomore most likely won't be able to do a lot of the work, at least in terms of data. You'll be tasked usually more with research, making the report, or with PowerPoints. I'd say a lot of times you serve as a support role. And like I said, they'll be your mentor, and they'll be able to kind of teach you a little bit about the material, but it's a great experience to take part in. And then another rule that's not on here, you can't go anywhere for outside help. You can't talk to professors, you can't talk to any actuaries in the industry. It's all independent work. Just you and your team have to work alone on this. It's just like a project, So CAS has provided UCSB with a lot of case study topics, and we will be, so Janet Duncan will be hosting a couple of these seminars on what she believes she's the best at, and we're still working with other professors to bring seminars to the association. And you can find this in member resources on Discord. We have the material, but it's always good when you have an actuary that has practiced this type of work in the industry, that can teach you this. They have a little more experience, a lot more experience. And so these are just some of the topics that you could be asked about. So yeah, probability, data visualization, liability is a big one. Predictive modeling as well is pretty popular. Warranty, workers' comp, auto insurance, auto safety, catastrophe modeling. I know when I did the UCLA competition in January, there was, we had to talk about catastrophe reserving. We didn't have to actually do any modeling for it, but these are just some of the concepts that you could be asked to talk about or, you know, use certain methods for them. These are just some study resources. So there are a lot of resources out there. Some of these are free to the public, and then some of them are expensive. I know BEST's aggregates and averages cost $1,000, and that is the one that we are currently applying to get funding for. And then you can find, I believe, first course in probability, you can find the PDF online. Same with Friedland actuarial reserves estimation. So yeah, I'll be posting this. Mike will be posting this to the website, hopefully over the weekend, so you can take a look at some of these resources and prepare. And then these resources as well, you can use for your case competition if there's something related to these. Sorry, one moment. Sorry about that. So these are just some more resources that you'll need. A big one is Excel. You know, and this is just in general for internships, sometimes interviews, and very importantly in case competitions, you need to have experience in Excel. You don't need to know VBA, I wouldn't say, but you know, knowing how to move around in Excel, really just knowing how to manipulate data, reconcile data, and present it in tables. And we'll be having Excel seminars later in the quarter, so you can, you know, practice. And yeah, and lastly, some more resources. You can use this website. You can look it up now, or you can, you know, wait till this is posted to look at for RMS models. And yeah, we're gonna have Excel seminars. These are just some preparation seminars you can look at. We have the case study seminars coming up, as well as case competition seminars. And yeah, like we said earlier, you can join Discord and talk to other Actuarial Association members, you know, so that once you are paired, you already know them, and hopefully, you know, it's a little easier to work with them. And then like I just showed before, the resources you can take a look at. Those will definitely help you out if you are tasked with, you know, doing some reserving or catastrophe modeling. So now I'll talk about my experience. So I'm a transfer student, as many of you may know. I wanted to do the UC Berkeley competition last fall, but I couldn't. I had a lot of work in CS9 and Python, so I held off until the UCLA competition. And I know we had about 8 teams from UCSB compete, so you know that's really good. In total, I believe there were 25 to 30 teams from Irvine, Berkeley, UCLA, and UC Santa Barbara. We were given 1 week, and the case competition basically asked us to serve as a reserving team, and we had to do a reserving review of a few lines of business: homeowners liability, physical auto damage, and I believe physical auto liability as well. We were given 14,000 rows of data, and each row was a claim. It said, you know, the date the claim happened, the person involved, how much is estimated to be paid out, and how much was paid out if it has already been paid. And many of them were not paid yet. So we had to use certain methods. They asked us to do, these are just some popular reserving methods they asked to do, is paid chain ladder method. We did Cape Cod method, expected method, Bornhueter Ferguson method. And like I said, when I came into this, I had no idea what any of these were. Thankfully, I had John Tran on my team. Many of you may know John, former vice president of the association, and very helpful. He carried the team. He was taking 183 and he knew all the material. And like I said before, you know, I was technically an upperclassman, but I was only in my second quarter of school. So I didn't have that type of knowledge. I wasn't shown that type of these type of methods or I only knew about reserving. I didn't know about, how to do it at all. So he provided textbooks from Janet Duncan and told people in the team to read certain chapters. And we did some of the easier work in Excel. So the three of us that weren't able to do the actual methods, we cleaned up the data, we looked for errors, just organized it. And from there, John did all the actual work. We did try as well. And then John, with his work already done, would look at ours and tell us, oh, that something here is wrong. Make sure to change this. See, there's only a week to do it. So it's pretty hard to learn all these methods and then, confidently execute each one correctly. If we were asked to do it, we probably could, but it most likely would not be good enough to be presented. And that's why we practiced. And then, John at the end submitted his work. I worked on the report and I did the PowerPoint, and our main goal was to learn. It was a learning experience. So we just need to learn why we're reserving, what the outcome is, what that means. And we had to standardize a certain line of business and use a certain method. And we decided to use paid chain ladder method for, let's say, it was physical auto damage, because it was the most consistent. And with the method we used, the data had very little volatility, very consistent throughout the 10 years of data. We presented, and of course we practiced. We met probably, say, 4 times a week for 2 hours. And, we'd each work on our parts, study, ask questions. It's really playing off each other's strengths. When you organize your team and you decide who will be doing what, as much as I like to say you want to work on your weaknesses, for your weaknesses, you want to learn about it. Okay, so like if you don't know, like my weakness was reserving reviews. So I improved that by practicing a little bit and by learning, mainly learning. It's really hard to want to, be the one that does all that data. If you have the time, I say go for it. And in certain situations, you may have to step up to the plate to be that person, even if it's your first time. But you really want to play the strengths. If somebody's good at making PowerPoints, if someone else is good at organizing data to make tables or creating reports, you want to task each person with their strengths so that you're the most efficient. In the end, we presented to the UCLA actuarial organization judges, and we made it through to the finals. And after the 1 week, and we presented to the judges, they told us, oh, congratulations, you made it through to the finals. You're not allowed to change any of your data, but they told us we could change certain errors in our PowerPoint if there were any grammatical. I think there was an extra comma somewhere. A couple of tables weren't centered perfectly. So more of formatting you're allowed to change. And in that extra week, that's when, if you make the finals, that's when you really want to study. You want to know everything in and out. When we made to the finals, it's set up so that one team presents at a time and the other teams are not allowed to watch. You're put in a waiting room so that you can't learn about types of questions the judges are going to ask you, or look at mistakes that the team made. So we were the last team to present. Usually it's in person. Hopefully this year it is in person. This last school year in in January, it was online. So we had to present, and there were 20 judges. Some of them were in insurance, and a good chunk of them were actuaries. So the reason why I mentioned that some of them are insurance is that they asked us after, oh, what's the point of this method? Like, why would we use it? When was it developed? When is it most typically used? These questions you could be asked by an actuary, but an actuary is more likely to ask you in-depth questions. One question we got that threw us off was by a gentleman at Allstate or Nationwide. He asked, why do you use the paid chain ladder method so frequently? He said, if I were a government regulator and I came in and saw that you're using this method so frequently, I could do an investigation. So what's your defense on this? And we were a little confused because that's something we hadn't prepared for. We basically explained that, there's no bias. We looked at all the data and this method is the most consistent. It's all, all of our results are consistent. And we got like the best ultimate loss from it. And he said, okay. And at the end, they announced who wins. We didn't win, but I'm happy that we made it to the finals. It was a great experience. And afterwards, I asked him, I said, why'd you ask us this? Would a regulator actually come in and look at this? And he said, no. And he said, no, a regulator would almost never look at this. It was kind of a trick question just to see, keep you on your feet to see how much you know. And when I looked up later, I saw, occasionally there are regulators and we hadn't researched that enough. So you want to really treat this as if it's a project for an actual company. You want to do all your research. You want to, it's really in the details. You want to know why everything's happening, why you're doing certain things, and you're gonna have to be able to explain everything. I think we were asked when we were explaining catastrophes. I made the mistake of, I put COVID-19 there, and I didn't research enough and see that technically it's not a catastrophe. I've heard actuaries say that COVID-19 in some ways was a catastrophe just because how it affected the market. But for the things we were working on, like, car insurance and homeowners liability, it didn't affect it as much. And so it's not, in general, it's not a catastrophe. And I put that, and that was a mistake on my part. And that's something that I learned going forward. And that's why it's good to just practice in these, just do as many as you can. Now, the benefits of doing these case competitions, for me as a junior, I didn't have any exams passed, and I applied last year during the fall recruiting season and the career fair for the association. Sent out to about 20 companies. I applied to probably 20 more. I'd say I received about 8 interviews in that time in the fall, and there was nothing to talk about in my resume. I didn't have any exams. I was taking 120A, CS9, Econ 10A. So I couldn't talk about a lot of these actuarial concepts. I think the only technical question I was asked to answer was, what is linear regression? And that was asked by Aon. Looking back at my resume, it wasn't very strong. I didn't have anything on it. Obviously I had like my experience as a tutor and as a sales associate, but nothing related to the industry. Following this case competition, I put it on my resume and I put in depth everything I did. And I had 3 interviews from January to March. And that's all they wanted to talk about. They didn't care about what I'm learning at school or my experiences as a tutor or a sales associate or engineering intern. They didn't care about any of that. They only talked about case competition. They wanted me to explain to them, talk about how I worked in a team environment, if I faced any issues, how I resolved those issues. So if you are looking to add something on your resume, if you're worried, oh, I don't have enough things there, I don't have anything to talk about. If you do one of these case competitions, that's all they want to talk about. And for the most part, they won't expect you to know everything about it, but it's very important that you understand the concepts. You understand, what's being done. You understand the definitions, and you understand the process. They won't ask you, at least in my experience, I had this happen once recently with Aon, where they asked me in detail to explain each step in Excel. And I was able to explain what I did. But, I was in a support role. And that's why I think, moving forward, that's something that I've learned. You need to know everything that you've done. So this is just a piece of advice for me. Once you're done, or while you're doing this, I'd say, like, if you're using certain methods or creating models, it's really important to make a document. It could be on paper, or you could have a Google Doc and write everything that you're doing. If you're learning something about certain definition, write it down, write the definition, write the steps you took to create a model, or use a certain method. Not only is this helpful for future, if you have to do this at work, you'll have notes, or in internships, you'll have notes to go off of. But if you're asked in an interview these things, and before your interviews, you can use these notes to review everything in the case competition. That's something that I did for my interviews in spring. I would look at the case competition and the presentation, the PowerPoint, and the report, and I'd look at everything, and our final decision, why we chose standardized, which method. I was asked a good amount about it, not extremely detailed, but it really shows you're proactive. That's one great thing. It shows that you, on top of being at UCSB, which is a great actuarial school, you're going out of your way and sacrificing time from studying for exams, studying for classes, to do this case competition. It shows that you're hungry for experience. And so when you go into these internships, and these interviews, it shows that you're a person that will go out there to get the knowledge you need to be successful. And I think that because I did this case competition, and because the Actuarial Association helped me with my resume and my Excel skills, that's why I got my internship. I really believe that. I did 3 interviews, and aside from behavioral questions, I would say that the case competition was talked about, say 40% of all the interviews. It was case competition. That's all they wanted to talk about. That's all they cared about. So yeah, that's just my piece of advice. Do this if you want to build on your resume. It looks really good. Yeah, if I'll open up the floor now if anybody has any questions about the specific case competition, or in general, or about our seminars. Feel free to unmute yourself, or type in the chat. Sorry, I know I went on for a while there, but this case competition really did help me out. Anybody, any questions? Okay, I'll give you guys a couple minutes. If you are interested in doing the case competition for UC Berkeley, our deadline is going to be, I believe, on Sunday night. So if you haven't done so already, go to the email that I sent yesterday on Thursday and fill out the form, and we'll be making team pairings and announcing that on Monday or Tuesday. Okay, thank you, Michael. And then we will be having the seminars with Janet Duncan, one's in mid-November and one's in late November. If you want to get ready, or if you want to for UCLA, or you just want practice, definitely attend these seminars with Janet Duncan. She has over 20 years, I think maybe 30 actually, in the actuarial industry, and she has a lot of knowledge. She's one of the most I'd say experienced actuarial professors we have, her and her husband Ian Duncan. So for the seminars, we'll be sending out emails, I believe, starting next week. They'll be via Zoom, just so that we can cater to Janet Duncan's availability. Yeah, we'll send them out in our newsletter. No, okay. Thank you, Robert, for asking that. So yeah, if you filled out the form already, you're good to go. We have your information, and we'll pair you with a team, like I said, on Monday or Tuesday. So the thing is, as much as I'd like to right now put all the teams together, we need to wait to see how many upperclassmen we have and how many lowerclassmen. I don't want to prematurely put together a team of 4 freshmen And then later on have several seniors join, because it kind of is like a mentor-mentee thing as well. You have more experience than them. You may have been in a case competition before. So, there's a lot of knowledge you have to pass on, and we don't want to miss out on the opportunity. If there's no questions, I guess I'll talk a little bit more about case studies. So case competition is just, and you've seen from PowerPoint, it's a bigger version of a case study. You have more time. A case study will usually be, you'll ask to do it half an hour to 2 hours. I believe Michael has done a case study within a group setting in an interview, and he was asked to work with 3 people in total, and they had 2 hours to work on it and to present it. That's not, I wouldn't say that's as common. And these case studies, if you're giving them in interviews, it's more on the consulting side. One of our officers, Jaime Gomez, has done a lot of interviews for finance and risk, and they like case studies a lot more than they do for actuarial positions. So they will, an example could be, right now you have a lot of liabilities and the end of the quarter's coming, and you have a board meeting, the company does not look like it's doing well, and there's issues with salaries. What are you going to do to fix this, and how would you present it to the board? So, you're going to be asked to do on the spot thinking. And then for other case studies, you'll have up to usually half an hour, I believe, to work on them. I know Megan had to create a model in one of her interviews. Like I said, these aren't that common, but you always want to be prepared. I mean, I think for me at least, and probably for a lot of you, your worst nightmare is that you go into an interview and you get a question that you can't answer. You're just stuck. So yeah, just use these resources we provided. You can look up some of these concepts so that if this case study comes your way in an interview, you are prepared. And with these seminars and competitions, they're bigger versions. So you will be familiar with the type of material you'll be asked. A lot of it is just creative problem solving. Aside from applying, certain methods or creating models, they want to see how you think, what your approach is to a certain problem. And yeah, we'll be having Excel seminars coming up, the case study seminars. So please do attend these if you are interested. I'll give one last minute. Any questions, anybody? And if you don't feel comfortable asking now, you can wait till the end, and you can ask me one-on-one, or you can send me an email or Marie an email.
Actually, how many people are there usually to a team? Is that a number that's usually stated already?
Yes, thank you, Avery. So UCLA does teams of 4. And UC Berkeley they like to do teams of 4, but I've been speaking with a few of their officers and they said they will do teams of 3. That's acceptable. And then yeah, for case studies, it's just an individual thing. Yeah, I'd say 4 is the most common group size.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, okay, before we go, one last thing I want to mention is our mentorship program. So the deadline to fill it out will be on the 28th, so a week from today. And we will have a meeting week 6. Week 6 starts October 31st. So we'll have a meeting then, and we will reveal the mentors and mentees. If you have extra time, if you want to share some of your knowledge, or if you're on the other side and you want to learn from somebody, this is a really great program. I'll be one of the mentors. I know we have, I believe, 4 other officers that are going to be mentoring. And there's a lot of stuff it covers. So, we could help with if you need like exam strategies, how to study for exams, which resources do you use? If you need help you know, what course should I take next quarter, or what company should I apply to if I want to focus on this or that. You know, I'd say especially for courses you want to take or professors you want to avoid or take take a course with, that's something that's big. I know that thankfully Megan is a counselor. I'm very happy about that because she has a lot of knowledge and she'll be a mentor as well. But if you talk to a general like advisor or counselor, like college letter and sciences, even sometimes in the PSAT office, they don't focus on actuarial science, so they don't know. So if you need some guidance, definitely join the program. And Megan has dropped it in the chat if you would like to join. So Malcolm, you asked what time of the day do teams normally meet? So this is just from my experience. We met, I'd say 7 to 9 o'clock. I think Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and then on Sundays as well. It's just whatever works for the team. Sometimes we would only have 2 of the 4 members or 3, just because one person couldn't join. And in that case, you'd focus on, whatever those people are working on, helping them out. But yeah, it's just all about working around your schedule and, just creating extra time. Okay, if there's no more questions, we can wrap it up here. Thank you everybody for coming. We really appreciate it. If you're interested, sign up for the case competition and we'll announce teams next week. And yeah, you can, just make sure to check emails. We'll be sending out information about Excel and case competition seminars. I hope everybody has a great weekend and we will see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course. So yes, question. The recording will be available on the website. You can go to, I believe it is, Lucky, do you know the name of the tab? Let me stop.
For the case competition?
Yeah, wait,
on
one
Discord?
second.